The wealthy CEO sat alone at a cafe, crying after his divorce. A small girl walked up. "Are you okay, sir?" Then she climbed into his lap and whispered something that broke and healed his heart. The little girl didn't ask permission. She didn't hesitate. She just climbed right into the lap of a complete stranger, a grown man in an expensive suit who sat crying over papers spread across a cafe table. Her mother gasped, "Excuse me, I'm so sorry, oh my God." But the girl wrapped her small arms around the man's neck and leaned close to his ear. The cafe seemed to hold its breath. And then she whispered words that would change everything. "It's okay to be sad," she said softly. "When my daddy went to heaven, I was sad for a really, really long time. But Mommy says broken hearts can heal if you let people help. I can help you. I'm really good at helping." The man, this powerful CEO worth billions, this titan of industry who commanded boardrooms and closed deals worth millions, completely shattered. His shoulders shook. Tears he couldn't control streamed down his face. He held this tiny stranger, this 6-year-old prophet in a yellow raincoat, and he sobbed like he hadn't allowed himself to sob in decades, because she saw him, really saw him, not his money, not his status, not his achievements or his failures, just his pain, just his broken heart, just his desperate need for someone, anyone, to notice he was drowning. Have you ever felt so broken that a stranger's kindness felt like a miracle? Have you ever been that person, sitting alone in a public place, surrounded by people, but utterly isolated, wondering if anyone even notices you're falling apart? Have you ever needed someone to ask you the simplest question in the world, "Are you okay?" This is the story of Brooks Hendrick, a man who had everything money could buy and nothing that actually mattered. A man who built an empire but lost his soul in the process. A man whose life was divided into before and after by one small girl who had the courage to approach a crying stranger. This is a story about what real wealth looks like, about how the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest transformations, about how sometimes the people who save us are the ones we least expect, about how broken hearts really can heal, if we're brave enough to let people help. If you've ever felt invisible in your pain, if you've ever wondered whether your life has meaning, if you've ever needed hope when everything felt hopeless, stay with me. Because what you're about to hear will remind you that we're all connected in ways we can't imagine. That purpose can be found in the darkest moments. That love, real transformative love, can emerge from the ashes of everything we thought we wanted. But first, hit that subscribe button, because you're about to witness a transformation that will restore your faith in second chances, in human kindness, in the possibility that even the most broken among us can be made whole again. This is a story that needs to be shared. So stick with me until the end, and I promise you'll see your own life differently. You'll understand what truly matters, and you might just find the courage to be someone's miracle. Now, to understand why that moment in the cafe shattered and rebuilt a broken man, we need to go back. Back to the day Brooks Hendrick lost everything that never really mattered. Back to the moment his carefully constructed world collapsed. Back to when success revealed itself to be the emptiest achievement of all. Brooks Hendrick sat in the back of his Mercedes, staring at his phone as his driver navigated morning traffic. The leather seats smelled expensive. The car cost more than most people's houses. Everything in Brooks's life cost more than most people's houses. He was 45 years old, CEO and founder of Hendrick Innovations, a technology empire that employed over 8,000 people across 4 continents. His company's valuation had crossed the billion-dollar threshold 5 years ago and kept climbing. He owned properties in New York, London, and Tokyo. His car collection included vehicles most people only saw in magazines. His face appeared regularly in Forbes, Fortune, and Business Insider, usually accompanied by words like visionary, unstoppable, ruthless. That last word was accurate. Brooks had built his empire with single-minded determination that left casualties in its wake. Friendships sacrificed for deals, family events missed for meetings, a marriage that existed in name only, held together by appearances and convenience. His father's voice still echoed in his head after all these years. "You'll never amount to anything, Brooks. You're too soft, too weak. You don't have what it takes." Brooks had spent his entire adult life proving that voice wrong. Every acquisition, every successful product launch, every time his company's stock price climbed, he was answering that voice. See? See what I built? See what I'm worth? But worth to who? For what? These questions had started creeping in lately. in quiet moments between meetings, in the early morning hours when he couldn't sleep. In the massive penthouse apartment he returned to every night, walking through rooms that looked like magazine spreads but felt like mausoleums. His phone buzzed. A text from his attorney, Richard Moss. "Everything's ready for this morning. Papers are prepared. Should be straightforward." Brooks stared at the message. Straightforward. 15 years of marriage reduced to straightforward paperwork. Andrea had asked for the divorce 6 months ago. No, asked wasn't the right word. She'd informed him, cool and professional, like she was canceling a subscription service. "I'm leaving you, Brooks. I've been seeing Derek for 8 months. We're moving in together. I've already spoken to my attorney. You'll hear from them tomorrow." Derek, his college roommate, his supposed best friend, the guy who'd been best man at their wedding, who Brooks had brought into his company as a senior advisor, who he'd trusted with everything. The betrayal should have destroyed him. Maybe it had. Maybe that was the problem. Brooks felt like he should feel more, should rage or grieve or something. Instead, he just felt empty, hollow, like someone had scooped out his insides and left only the expensive shell. Andrea had never loved him. He could see that now. She'd loved the lifestyle, the penthouses and the private jets and the charity galas where she wore designer gowns and played the role of powerful man's beautiful wife. She'd loved what he could provide, not who he was underneath the provision. And Derek had offered her the same lifestyle plus something Brooks had never given her. Attention, presence, actual emotional availability. Brooks couldn't even summon righteous anger about it, because Andrea was right. He'd never really been there, not emotionally. He was always thinking about the next deal, the next acquisition, the next mountain to climb, always proving something to a father who'd been dead for 10 years but whose voice still dictated every choice Brooks made. The car pulled up in front of the attorney's office building. Brooks took a deep breath, straightened his tie, and stepped out into the bright morning sunshine that felt like an insult. The meeting took 40 minutes. Andrea arrived in a cream-colored suit that probably cost $5,000. Money Brooks had earned. She looked perfect, composed, her blonde hair in an elegant updo, her makeup flawless. She wore different jewelry than he remembered. Gifts from Derek, probably. She didn't meet his eyes. They sat on opposite sides of a large conference table. Their respective attorneys managed the proceedings with professional efficiency. Papers were produced, explanations given, signatures required. Brooks's hand trembled slightly as he signed his name over and over, here and here, and initial here. The dissolution of 15 years reduced a bureaucratic process. Andrea signed with steady hands. No hesitation, no second thoughts. When it was done, she stood, smoothed her skirt, and looked at him for the first time that morning. "I hope you find whatever you're looking for, Brooks," she said. Her voice wasn't unkind, just distant, like she was speaking to a stranger, though I doubt you even know what that is. Then she walked out. The door closed behind her with a soft click that felt louder than it should. Brooks sat there for a long moment. His attorney, Richard, cleared his throat. "I know this is difficult," he said, "but you'll move forward. You always do. You're one of the most successful men I know." Successful. Brooks almost laughed. He was worth billions on paper. He could buy almost anything he wanted. He commanded respect in boardrooms across the world. And he'd never felt more like a failure in his entire life. He left the building in a daze. His driver asked where to. "Just drive," Brooks said. "I don't care where." They drove through the city. Brooks stared out the window at people going about their lives. A couple holding hands as they walked down the sidewalk, laughing about something. A father with a toddler on his shoulders, the child's hands tangled in his hair. An elderly woman feeding pigeons in a park, smiling to herself. Everyone had someone. Everyone had something. Everyone except him. "Stop here," Brooks said suddenly. They were passing a small cafe called Riverside. He'd never noticed it before, despite driving this road hundreds of times. "Sir?" the driver asked. "Just stop. I'll call you when I need you." Brooks got out of the car and walked into the cafe. It was quiet. A few people on laptops, an elderly couple sharing a muffin by the window, soft music playing from speakers, the smell of coffee and fresh baked goods. He ordered a black coffee from the barista, a middle-aged Asian woman who smiled warmly at him. He didn't smile back. He couldn't remember how. He chose a corner booth. sat down, pulled out the divorce papers he'd folded into his jacket pocket, spread them out on the table like evidence of a crime. His phone sat silent beside the papers. No calls, no texts, except business notifications. His calendar showed meetings for the rest of the week, but nothing personal. No lunch with friends because he had no friends, not really. No dinner plans. No weekend activities beyond work. When had his life become this? When had success turned into isolation? He thought about his sister, Jennifer. They'd been close once, when they were kids, before their father's constant criticism had turned them into competitors instead of allies. She'd called him 3 months ago, asking for money for her business. Not asking how he was. Not saying happy birthday when it had been his birthday the week before. Just asking for money. Everyone wanted something from him. His board wanted profits. His employees wanted leadership and paychecks. His ex-wife had wanted a lifestyle. His sister wanted funding. His business associates wanted connections and opportunities. Nobody wanted him, just what he could provide. Brooks stared at the divorce papers, at Andrea's signature, so confident and final, at his own, shakier than he wanted to admit. 45 years old, billions in the bank, and utterly, completely alone. The tears surprised him. They started slowly, just wetness in his eyes that he blinked away. But they kept coming, building, until he couldn't stop them anymore. Brooks Hendrick, CEO of Hendrick Innovations, sat in a corner booth of a cafe he'd never been to before, crying over divorce. Papers while strangers typed on laptops nearby, completely unaware that a man was falling apart 10 feet away from them. Nobody noticed. Nobody cared. Nobody even looked up. He was invisible. Despite all his success, despite his wealth and status and accomplishments, he was completely invisible. And he realized with devastating clarity that he'd been invisible his whole life. Invisible to his father, who'd never seen his worth. Invisible to his wife, who'd never seen past his wallet. Invisible to himself, because he'd been too busy performing success to figure out who he actually was underneath it all. What was the point? What was the point of any of it? He'd won every game that didn't matter, and lost every one that did. The cafe sounds faded. The soft music, the gentle conversation of the elderly couple, the hiss of the espresso machine. Everything felt distant, like he was underwater. Brooks buried his face in his hands. His shoulders shook. He didn't care who saw anymore. Didn't care about maintaining the image of the powerful, composed CEO. That was just another performance, another mask. And he was so tired of wearing masks. He cried for the marriage that had never been real. For the friendship Derek had faked. For the father whose approval he'd chased into the ground. For the man he might have been if he'd cared about different things. For the emptiness of achievement without meaning. For the wealth that had bought him everything except what he actually needed. He cried for the loneliness. God, the loneliness. The bone-deep ache of going through life without anyone who truly knew him or cared to. He didn't hear the small footsteps approaching. Didn't notice the presence beside his table until a tiny voice spoke. "Excuse me, sir. Are you okay?" Brooks looked up, hastily wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. Through his blurred vision, he saw a little girl standing beside the booth. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. Copper red hair pulled back in 2 pigtails with colorful beads. A scattering of freckles across her nose. Bright, concerned eyes that held more wisdom than children's eyes should hold. She wore a yellow raincoat over striped leggings, and she clutched a worn stuffed elephant under one arm. "What?" Brooks managed, his voice rough. "You look sad," the girl said simply. "Matter of fact, my mommy says when people look sad we should check on them. Are you okay?" For a moment, Brooks couldn't speak. Couldn't process. When was the last time someone had asked him that question? When was the last time someone had looked at him and actually seen a person instead of a business opportunity or a bank account? He started, but his voice broke. Piper, a woman's voice, gentle but firm. The girl's mother, rushing over. "Baby, you can't just walk up to people." "But mommy," the girl, Piper, insisted, pointing at Brooks. He looked sad. Really, really sad. "We have to help." The woman reached the table, slightly out of breath. Brooks looked up at her and felt something in his chest shift. She was beautiful, but not in the calculated, maintained way Andrea was beautiful. This woman looked real, natural. She appeared to be in her early 30s with the same copper red hair as her daughter, though hers was pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore scrubs decorated with cartoon animals. A veterinary technician or nurse, maybe. Her face held an apologetic smile, but her eyes, the same bright, perceptive eyes as her daughter's, were kind. Genuinely kind in a way Brooks hadn't encountered in years. "I'm so sorry," she said to Brooks. "My daughter has a very big heart and sometimes forgets about personal boundaries and appropriate social behavior." Brooks surprised himself by smiling. It was small, watery, but real. The first genuine smile in weeks, maybe months. "It's okay," he heard himself say. "She's right. I am sad." Piper nodded knowingly, as if vindicated. "I knew it. Do you want to talk about it?" "Talking helps. My mommy says so." "Piper," the woman said more firmly, though Brooks could hear the affection threaded through her tone. She looked at Brooks again, her expression apologetic. "I really am sorry. We'll leave you alone." "No," Brooks said quickly. The word came out more desperate than he intended. He didn't want them to go. He couldn't explain it, but the presence of this child and her mother made the crushing weight on his chest feel lighter. Bearable, almost. "Please, it's okay. I could use the company. Really." The woman hesitated. She studied his face carefully. Brooks didn't know what she saw there, what assessment she made in those few seconds. But whatever it was, it must have convinced her, because she nodded slowly. "Okay," she said. "But just for a minute." She looked down at her daughter. "And you need to remember to ask before approaching strangers, Piper. Even when you want to help. Understand?" "I know, Mommy," Piper said. But he needed help. I could tell. Brooks gestured to the empty seats across from him. "Would you like to sit? I have cake. Birthday cake, actually. Too much for one person." Piper's eyes went wide, with the particular excitement only children can achieve over cake. "It's your birthday?" "It is," Brooks confirmed. "And you're alone?" Piper looked genuinely horrified. Her small face crumpled with concern. "That's the saddest thing I've ever heard." "Piper," her mother said gently, touching her shoulder. But Brooks laughed. A real laugh that came from somewhere deep inside, somewhere he'd forgotten existed. The sound surprised him. "You know what? You're absolutely right. It is pretty sad." The woman met his eyes. In that moment, something passed between them, a silent understanding. She saw his pain. He saw her compassion. Two strangers in a cafe, connected by a child's intuitive kindness, becoming something more, becoming two people who needed each other, even if neither knew it yet. The woman extended her hand. "I'm Kayla," she said. "Kayla Preston. And this is my daughter, Piper." Brooks shook her hand, noticing the firmness of her grip. The warmth, the steadiness, not the limp, disinterested handshakes he got at business dinners where people wanted things from him. This was the handshake of someone who meant it. Someone real. "Brooks Hendrick," he said. Kayla and Piper slid into the booth across from him. The barista, the kind Asian woman who'd served Brooks earlier, came over with extra plates and forks without being asked. She set them down with a smile, clearly approving of this development. Piper immediately launched into conversation with the fearless enthusiasm of 6-year-olds everywhere. "What's your favorite color?" she asked Brooks. "Blue," Brooks said, the first color that came to mind. "Mine's purple. And silver. I can't pick just one. What's your favorite animal?" "Dogs, I think. Though I've never had one." "You've never had a dog?" Piper looked scandalized. "That's so sad. Dogs are the best. We can't have one because our apartment doesn't allow pets, but someday, I'm going to have 5 dogs, and they'll all sleep in my bed." Kayla smiled at her daughter's declaration, a mixture of amusement and gentle indulgence crossing her face. "That's going to be a crowded bed, baby." Brooks found himself relaxing in a way he hadn't in longer than he could remember. He cut the birthday cake into slices. It was chocolate, from an expensive bakery downtown, delivered that morning, when he'd still thought he might celebrate with colleagues. That plan had died along with his marriage. He served the first slice to Piper, then to Kayla, then took one for himself. "This is the best birthday I've had in years," Brooks said, and he meant it with every fiber of his being. Kayla tilted her head, studying him. "Really?" "Really," Brooks confirmed. He took a bite of cake. It was good. Rich and moist, and probably cost more than most people spent on groceries in a week. But it tasted like ashes in his mouth until this moment, until he was sharing it with 2 strangers who had no agenda, no ulterior motives, no expectations beyond this simple human connection. You have no idea what your daughter just did for me, Brooks said, looking at Piper. Piper swung her legs under the table, too short to reach the floor. She ate her cake with focused determination. Between bites, she said, sometimes people just need someone to notice them. My daddy used to say that. Kayla's expression shifted. A shadow of old pain crossed her face, there and gone in a heartbeat, but Brooks caught it. Destiny, baby, Kayla said softly. Eat your cake. Brooks caught the correction. She'd called her Piper before, but now she'd said Destiny. He filed that away, along with the past tense when Piper mentioned her father. Used to say, not says, used to. There was a story there. Pain and loss that mirrored his own, though he suspected theirs was deeper, more real. He wanted to ask, but he'd just met them. It wasn't his place. Not yet. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. The cafe started filling up with the late morning crowd. A group of women in yoga clothes ordered complicated lattes, talking about their class. A businessman in a suit grabbed coffee to go, phone pressed to his ear, already arguing with someone about quarterly projections. The world moved on, indifferent to individual suffering, everyone absorbed in their own dramas and concerns. But at this table, something different was happening. 3 people who didn't know each other an hour ago were sharing cake and small smiles and the kind of gentle peace that comes from unexpected kindness. Piper told a story about her school play. She was going to be a tree, she announced proudly. A very important tree with 3 whole lines. Can I hear them? Brooks asked, genuinely interested. Piper needed no further encouragement. She stood on her chair, much to Kayla's gentle protest, and declared, in her best theatrical voice, I am the oldest tree in the forest. I have seen many seasons. I will stand strong through the storm. People at nearby tables turned to look. Some smiled at the precocious child. Others looked annoyed at the disruption. Brooks didn't care about them. He was transfixed by this little girl's confidence, her joy, her absolute certainty that the world wanted to hear what she had to say. Kayla gently pulled Piper back into her seat. Inside voice, baby. But Brooks clapped softly. That was excellent. You're going to be wonderful in the play. Piper beamed, her whole face lighting up. You should come watch me. Piper, Kayla said quickly. Mr. Hendrick is a busy man. I'm sure he has important things to do. Brooks looked at Kayla, then at Piper, then back at Kayla. 3 hours ago, he'd been sitting in his penthouse apartment, seriously, considering whether anything in his life was worth continuing. Not explicitly suicidal, but certainly questioning whether this was all there was, whether another 40 years of successful emptiness was worth enduring. This child, with her innocent concern and bright smile and fearless approach, to a crying stranger, had given him something he hadn't felt in years, maybe ever, a reason to be present in the moment, a reminder that the world contained more than boardrooms and profit margins and performances of success. Actually, Brooks said slowly, I don't have anything important to do at all, and I'd love to come to your play. If your mother doesn't mind, of course. Kayla looked surprised. You don't have to do that. She invites everyone to everything. Last week, she invited the mailman. And he came, Piper added helpfully. Mr. Chen brought flowers for all the trees. Brooks smiled. Then I should definitely bring flowers too. When is it? Next Friday at 6, Piper said immediately. At Lincoln Elementary School. I'm tree number 2. There are 5 trees total, but I have the most important lines. Kayla studied Brooks's face, clearly trying to figure out whether he was being serious or just polite. Whatever she saw must have convinced her, because she nodded slowly. Okay, she said. If you really want to come, you're welcome. But please don't feel obligated. Kids invite everyone. It doesn't mean you actually have to show up. I want to come, Brooks said. He meant it more than he'd meant anything in a long time. They talked for another 20 minutes. Brooks learned that Kayla worked as a veterinary technician at an animal clinic downtown. She also did bookkeeping on the side for a few small businesses to make ends meet. Piper was in 1st grade, already reading at a 3rd grade level, and wanted to be either an astronaut or a veterinarian when she grew up. Maybe both. They lived in an apartment in the Riverside neighborhood, not far from this cafe. They came here every Sunday morning after church as a special treat. It was their tradition, Kayla explained. A way to start the week with something nice. Brooks couldn't remember the last time he'd had a tradition that wasn't work-related. Couldn't remember the last time he'd done something just because it was nice, not because it served some strategic purpose. When Kayla finally checked her phone and said they needed to go, Piper hugged Brooks goodbye as if they'd been friends forever. "Thank you for sharing your birthday with us," she said seriously. "Thank you for noticing I needed a friend," Brooks replied. His voice was thick with emotion he didn't bother hiding. As they walked toward the door, Brooks stood up. "Wait." They turned back. Brooks pulled out his wallet, then hesitated. He didn't want to offend them, but he also felt compelled to do something, to mark this moment, to give something back. "Please," he said, "let me pay for your breakfast, as a thank you." Kayla started to shake her head. "That's not necessary." "I know it's not necessary," Brooks said. "But you and your daughter gave me the best birthday gift I could have asked for. Kindness from strangers who expected nothing in return. Please, let me do this small thing." Kayla looked at Piper, then back at Brooks. Something in his expression must have reached her because she nodded slowly. "Okay," she said. "Thank you. That's very generous." Brooks paid for their meal and his own. He added a generous tip for the barista, Mrs. Chen, who'd been quietly supportive through the whole encounter. As he watched Kayla and Piper leave hand in hand, Piper skipping and talking animatedly about something, Kayla laughing, and responding with clear affection, Brooks felt something he hadn't felt in longer than he could remember. Hope. Not the grasping, desperate hope of wanting something external to fix him, but a quieter, steadier hope. The sense that maybe, just maybe, life could be different. That meaning could be found. That connection was possible. That he wasn't irredeemably broken after all. For the first time in months, years maybe, Brooks Hendrick felt something other than emptiness. He felt the stirring of purpose, the possibility of change, the faint outline of what a different life might look like. He sat back down at his table. The divorce papers were still spread out, but they looked different now. Not like an ending, but like a necessary demolition before rebuilding. Not like failure, but like freedom from something that was never right to begin with. Brooks pulled out his phone, opened his contacts, scrolled past hundreds of names, business associates and board members and people who wanted things from him. He created a new contact. "Kayla Preston," he typed. Then, in the notes section, "Met at Riverside Café. She and her daughter Piper saved my life." He sat there for another hour, nursing his coffee, thinking. The cafe bustled around him. More customers came and went. Brooks watched them all, seeing them differently now. Each person carrying their own struggles, their own pain, their own hopes. Each one as real and complex as he was. A mother with 3 young children came in, clearly frazzled, trying to manage orders and keep the kids from running wild. Brooks overheard her mention to one of the kids that it was his birthday. Without thinking, Brooks stood up and approached them. "Excuse me," he said. "I couldn't help but overhear it's your son's birthday. I have leftover birthday cake. Would he like some? It's my birthday too." The mother looked surprised, then grateful. "That's so kind. Yes, he'd love that. Thank you." Brooks brought over the remaining cake. The boy's face lit up like Christmas morning. The mother thanked him profusely. It was such a small thing, barely anything, but it felt good in a way closing $1 million deal had never felt good. By noon, Brooks had 17 missed calls. His assistant, his lawyers, 3 board members, and 1 call from a number he recognized as Derek's, which he deleted without listening. He turned his phone off completely, walked outside into the bright, cool day. Families walked past on the sidewalk. Couples held hands. Life continued, indifferent and beautiful and utterly ordinary. Brooks found himself walking with no destination. He never did this, never wandered. He always had a purpose, a meeting, a place to be, something to accomplish. Today, he just walked, through neighborhoods he'd never noticed, past small shops and parks and people living their lives. He thought about Piper's question, "Are you okay, sir?" Such a simple question, such a profound answer. No, he wasn't okay. He hadn't been okay for a very long time, but he'd been too busy building his empire to notice he was falling apart inside, too focused on proving his worth to everyone else to figure out what he actually valued, too committed to the performance of success to realize he was starving for real connection. But maybe okay was possible. Maybe he could build something different, something that mattered. Maybe this breaking point was actually a breaking open, making room for something new. The week passed in a blur. Brooks went through the motions at work, attended meetings, reviewed reports, made decisions, but his mind was elsewhere. He kept thinking about that cafe, about a little girl with copper hair who approached a crying stranger, about her mother's kindness, about how the simplest human connection had reached him in ways nothing else could. Thursday night, he barely slept. Friday, he left work early, something he never did. He stopped at a flower shop and bought 2 bouquets. Roses for Kayla, though he told himself he was just being polite. Wildflowers for Piper, colorful and cheerful. Lincoln Elementary School was in a part of town Brooks had never visited. The neighborhood was working class, modest homes with small yards, cars that were practical, not luxury. He felt conspicuous pulling up in his Mercedes, but he didn't care. The school auditorium was small. Rows of plastic chairs faced a makeshift stage. Parents milled around, many still in work clothes, having rushed from their jobs to make the play. Brooks stood near the entrance, suddenly nervous. What was he doing here? He barely knew these people. Piper probably hadn't even remembered inviting him. Kayla might think he was overstepping, being weird. But then a small voice called out, "Mr. Hendrick, you came." Piper ran toward him, her face lit with genuine joy. Brooks felt his nervousness evaporate. "I promised, didn't I?" he said, kneeling down to her level. "Lots of people promise and don't come," Piper said matter-of-factly. "But you're here. Mommy, look, Mr. Hendrick is here." Kayla walked over. She wore a deep red dress that brought out the warmth in her skin. Her hair was down in natural waves. She looked beautiful, more than beautiful. She looked happy to see him, and that made Brooks's chest feel tight. "You actually came," she said, smiling. "I told you I would." Brooks handed her the roses. "These are for you." Kayla took them, her eyes widening. "Brooks, these are gorgeous. You didn't have to do this. I wanted to." He turned to Piper and gave her the wildflowers. "And these are for the star of the show." Piper buried her face in the flowers and inhaled deeply. "These are the best flowers in the whole entire world," she declared. They found seats together near the front. The play started 15 minutes later. It was exactly what you'd expect from a first-grade production. Adorable chaos. Kids forgetting lines and making up new ones. Costumes that were clearly homemade. Sets painted on cardboard. And it was perfect. When Piper appeared as tree number 2, wearing a brown costume with green paper leaves attached, Brooks felt an unexpected surge of pride. She delivered her 3 lines with confidence and enthusiasm. Well, 2 of her 3 lines. The third one she forgot, but she improvised something about storms, making trees stronger, and honestly, it was better than the original. Brooks clapped louder than anyone else. Kayla laughed beside him, delighted by his enthusiasm. After the play, as parents collected their children, Brooks gave Piper her flowers again. She hugged him tight. "I only forgot 1 line," she said proudly. "Your improvisation was better anyway," Brooks told her. "You're a natural." In the parking lot as they walked to their cars, Kayla stopped. She looked at Brooks with an expression he couldn't quite read. "That was you, wasn't it?" she said. Brooks blinked. "What was me?" Kayla bit her lip, then continued. "My car broke down 2 weeks ago. Completely dead. The mechanic said it would cost $1,500 to fix, money I didn't have. I'd been taking the bus, getting rides from neighbors. Then yesterday, the mechanic called and said someone had paid for all the repairs. An anonymous friend. They wouldn't tell me who. Brooks didn't deny it. He couldn't have even if he wanted to. Kayla deserved honesty. You needed your car, he said simply. To get Piper to school. To get yourself to work. That matters more than money sitting in an account. Brooks, that was over $1,000. And now you don't have to worry about transportation. That's worth more to me than the money." Kayla looked at him for a long moment. Then, suddenly, she stepped forward and hugged him. It surprised them both. Brooks hesitated for just a second, then wrapped his arms around her. She smelled like flowers and something vanilla. She felt warm and real and right. "Thank you," she whispered into his shoulder. "You have no idea what this means to us." Brooks hugged her back, careful and respectful. "I think I do," he said quietly. When they pulled apart, Piper was watching with interest and a knowing smile. "Are you and Mommy going to get married?" she asked. "Piper." Kayla's face flushed red, but Brooks laughed. "Your Mommy and I are friends, Piper. Good friends." "That's how it starts," Piper said wisely. "In all the movies, people are friends first. Then they fall in love. Then they get married and have babies and live happily ever after. Let's focus on the friend part for now, Kayla said, still blushing. They said goodbye in the parking lot. As Brooks drove home in his Mercedes, back to his penthouse overlooking the city, he realized something. He was happier after spending an evening watching a children's play than he'd been closing his last $100 million deal. That weekend, Brooks did something he'd never done before. He went back to the Riverside Café on Sunday morning. He told himself it was because the coffee was good. He told himself he just needed a quiet place to think. He absolutely did not admit, even to himself, that he was hoping to see them again. At 9:15, the door opened and Piper bounded in, wearing a bright blue dress, followed by Kayla in a casual green sweater and jeans. Piper spotted him immediately and ran over. "Mr. Hendrick, you came back." "I did," Brooks said, unable to keep from smiling. "The cake was good last week. I thought I'd try the pancakes." "There's no cake today," Piper informed him seriously. "Then I guess I'll have to settle for good company instead." Kayla reached the table, slightly out of breath from chasing her energetic daughter. "This is a surprise. Good to see you again." Brooks felt ridiculously nervous. "Would you like to join me? I'd love to buy you both breakfast." "Please. Consider it a continuation of my birthday celebration." Kayla hesitated. Brooks could see the pride in her eyes, the independence that made her want to refuse charity. But he could also see the tiredness, the calculation she had to do before every purchase. The weight of being a single parent trying to provide on a limited income. "You don't have to do that," Kayla said. "I know I don't have to," Brooks replied. "I want to. Please." Piper tugged her mother's hand. "Please, Mommy. Mr. Hendrick is nice, and I'm really hungry." Kayla looked at her daughter, then at Brooks. Finally, she smiled. "Okay, thank you. That's very kind." They ordered breakfast. Piper got chocolate chip pancakes with extra whipped cream. Kayla ordered the simple omelet and fruit. Brooks got the same as Kayla, wanting her to feel comfortable, not like he was showing off. As they ate, the conversation flowed more easily than Brooks expected. Piper talked non-stop about her week at school. She'd gotten 100% on her spelling test. Her friend Zoe had moved to a new apartment. Her teacher, Miss Anderson, was the best teacher in the whole school because she let them have reading time with stuffed animals. Kayla listened with the infinite patience of a mother who'd heard many of these stories before but loved them anyway. She asked questions, made Piper feel heard, gently corrected her table manners. It was the most natural, beautiful parenting Brooks had ever witnessed. "Your daughter is remarkable," Brooks said when Piper excused herself to look at the cafe's fish tank. Kayla watched her daughter with a smile that held both love and sadness. "She is. She's the best thing that ever happened to me." Brooks hesitated, then asked gently, "How long have you been on your own?" Kayla's smile faltered. 3 years. My husband Tyler passed away. Cancer. 6 months from diagnosis to..." She trailed off, but Brooks understood. "I'm so sorry," he said, meaning it with everything in him. "Thank you." Kayla looked at her coffee. "It was rough at first, financially and emotionally. I didn't think we'd make it, but Piper kept me going. She needed me, so I had to figure it out. You're doing an incredible job. Most days I'm just trying to keep my head above water," Kayla admitted. "But we're managing. We're okay." That word again. Managing. Okay. Brooks hated it. This remarkable woman shouldn't just be managing or okay. She should be thriving, should be supported, should have space to breathe instead of constantly struggling. After breakfast, as they prepared to leave, Brooks made a decision. "Can I ask you something?" he said to Kayla. She nodded. "Of course. Are you really okay? Financially, I mean." Kayla stiffened slightly. "We're fine." Brooks raised his hands. "I don't mean to pry. I'd like to help if you'd let me." "Mr. Hendrick, we barely know you," Kayla said quietly, glancing at Piper, who was distracted by the fish tank. "I appreciate the thought, but we're managing." Brooks recognized the pride. He understood it. Kayla was a woman who'd survived tragedy and was determined to make it on her own. But pride, Brooks had learned the hard way, could be as destructive as greed. "Please don't take this the wrong way," Brooks said, "but last week, your daughter saved my life." Kayla's eyes widened. "What? Not literally," Brooks clarified quickly, "but close enough. I was in a very dark place. I'd lost everything that I thought mattered. And then Piper walked up and asked if I was okay. Nobody had done that in longer than I can remember. She reminded me that kindness exists, that genuine human connection exists, that there are things worth living for. Kayla's expression softened. So let me pay it forward, Brooks continued. Not as charity, as gratitude. Please, whatever you need most right now, let me help with it. Kayla looked at him for a long moment. Brooks saw the internal struggle, the desire to refuse warring with the reality of her situation. Finally, she sighed. My rent is due next week. I'm short $400. I'll have it eventually, but the late fees add up. And she stopped, looking embarrassed. I can't believe I'm telling you this. $400, Brooks repeated. He pulled out his wallet and counted out $500 bills. Please, take it. Kayla stared at the money. That's too much. It's not enough, Brooks said honestly. But it's a start. Please, you'd be doing me a favor. How is taking your money doing you a favor? Kayla asked, but Brooks could hear her resolve weakening. Because giving it makes me feel human again, Brooks said simply. Because for the first time in years, I'm doing something that actually matters. Please, Kayla, accept this with the same grace you've shown me. Kayla reached out slowly and took the money. Her hand trembled slightly. Thank you, she whispered. You have no idea what this means. I think I do, Brooks replied. Piper returned then, oblivious to what had just transpired. Mommy, can we go to the park? Kayla tucked the money carefully into her purse. Yes, baby, we can go to the park. Can Mr. Hendrick come too? Piper asked hopefully. Brooks looked at Kayla, asking silent permission. She nodded, smiling through the tears that gathered in her eyes. I'd love to, Brooks said. When we left Brooks Hendrick, he just agreed to join Kayla and Piper at the park. A billionaire CEO who'd been crying alone in a cafe just days after his divorce, now spending a Sunday morning with a single mother and her 6-year-old daughter who'd shown him more genuine care than anyone had in years. But this isn't just a story about a wealthy man helping a struggling family. This is about something far more profound. This is about what happens when we let people truly see us, when we accept help instead of hiding behind pride, when we build connection instead of walls. This is about how broken hearts really do heal, if we're brave enough to let people in. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button right now, because what you're about to witness is the kind of transformation we all need to believe is possible. Let's continue. They walked to the park 3 blocks away from the cafe. It was a small neighborhood park with a playground, a few weathered benches, and a duck pond with a walking path around it. Nothing fancy. Nothing Brooks would have noticed in his previous life. But today, with Piper skipping ahead and Kayla walking beside him, it felt like the most perfect place in the world. Piper ran straight to the swings. Push me, she called. Push me, really high. Brooks looked at Kayla for permission. She nodded, smiling. He'd never pushed a child on a swing before. Wasn't sure of the mechanics. But Piper gave enthusiastic instructions. Not too hard at first, just gentle. Now, a little more. Higher, higher. No, that's too high. Okay, that's perfect. Now keep it like that forever. Brooks laughed, falling into the rhythm. Kayla stood nearby, watching with an expression he couldn't quite read. Fondness, maybe, or something deeper. You're good with kids, Kayla observed after a few minutes. I don't have much experience, Brooks admitted, still pushing Piper. But she makes it easy. She has that effect on people. Kayla's voice was soft. She's been like that since she was tiny, just naturally empathetic. It's a gift and a curse sometimes. How so? She feels everything so deeply. When other kids are sad, she's devastated. When someone's hurt, she carries it. After Tyler died, she grieved so hard. But she also, Kayla paused, searching for words. She also was the one who reminded me to keep living, to find joy again. Piper called out from the swing. Mommy, did you tell Mr. Hendrick about Daddy? Not yet, baby. Piper dragged her feet to slow the swing. When she stopped, she turned to Brooks with complete seriousness. My daddy was a firefighter, she said. He saved people. One day he went into a burning building to save a family, and the building fell down. He went to heaven. Brooks knelt down to her level. I'm so sorry, Piper. He sounds like he was very brave. The bravest, Piper confirmed. Mommy says he was a hero. I don't remember him very much anymore. I was really little. But Mommy tells me stories so I won't forget. Brooks looked up at Kayla. Her eyes were wet, but she was smiling. He was brave, Kayla said, and he loved Piper more than anything in the world. He would have loved seeing her now, seeing the person she's becoming. I wish I could have met him, Brooks said honestly. Me too, Kayla replied. They spent the next hour at the park. Brooks pushed Piper on the swings until his arms ached. They went to the duck pond and fed the ducks with stale bread Kayla had brought in her bag. Piper narrated the entire experience, giving the ducks names and backstories. That one is Gerald. He's the dad duck. And that's Priscilla, the mom. And those are their 7 children. The smallest one is Petunia. She's my favorite because she's trying really hard, but she's not very good at catching bread yet. Brooks found himself completely absorbed in this child's imagination, in her ability to create entire worlds from simple observations. When was the last time he'd noticed ducks at all, let alone cared about their family dynamics? As the sun climbed higher, they found a bench. Piper ran around the playground, burning off seemingly endless energy. Brooks and Kayla sat together, watching her. "Can I ask you something personal?" Kayla said after a while. Brooks turned to her. "Anything. What happened to you? I mean, in the cafe. You mentioned your wife left, but there was more to it than that, wasn't there?" Brooks took a deep breath. It was a fair question. She'd shared her pain. He could share his. "My wife left me for my best friend," he said. "Or the person I thought was my best friend. They'd been having an affair for 8 months. The divorce was finalized the morning you met me." Kayla winced. "I'm so sorry." "The thing is," Brooks continued, "I'm not sure I'm mourning the relationship. I think I'm mourning what I thought I had. Because looking back, I realize Andrea never loved me. She loved what I could provide. The lifestyle, the status. And Derek, he provided the same lifestyle plus actual attention. She reached for his hand. That doesn't make it hurt less." Brooks looked down at their joined hands. "No, it doesn't. But it makes it different. I spent 15 years in a marriage that was never real, building a life that looked perfect but felt empty. And I was so busy performing success that I never stopped to ask what I actually wanted." "What do you want?" Kayla asked quietly. Brooks watched Piper on the playground, helping a younger child reach the monkey bars. "Honestly, I'm just starting to figure that out. But I think it looks something like this. Real connection, meaningful relationships, doing something that matters beyond profit margins. That's a big change from running a billion-dollar company." Brooks smiled. "Maybe the company can be part of it. If I run it differently. If I make it about people instead of just profits." Kayla studied him. "You're serious?" "I am. You said something last week that stuck with me. You asked what I'd done that mattered. And I couldn't answer. I've built an empire, but I've never actually helped anyone. That needs to change. How? I don't know yet." Brooks turned to face her fully. "But I was hoping you might help me figure it out." "Me?" Kayla looked surprised. "Brooks, I'm a vet tech. I don't know anything about running a tech company, but you know about being a working parent, about struggling to make ends meet, about what keeps people up at night worrying. That's exactly what I need to understand, not theories from consultants who've never struggled. Real perspectives from real people." Kayla bit her lip, thinking, "I can't accept payment for that." "Then don't think of it as payment. Think of it as friendship. You help me understand what employees actually need. I implement changes that help them. Everyone wins. And what do I get out of it?" Brooks smiled. "You get to help create real change for thousands of families. And," he paused, "you get my company, my friendship, for whatever that's worth." Kayla squeezed his hand. "It's worth a lot, Brooks." Over the next few weeks, Sunday morning breakfasts became a tradition. Brooks would meet Kayla and Piper at the Riverside Café. They'd eat pancakes and terrible coffee and talk about everything and nothing. Brooks learned more about their lives. After Tyler died, Kayla had lost their house. The life insurance helped for a while, but medical bills from Tyler's cancer treatment had eaten through most of their savings. She'd moved to a small apartment in Riverside, taken the vet tech job, and picked up bookkeeping work on the side. She was making it work, but just barely. Every month was a calculation, rent or groceries, car repairs or Piper's school supplies. Always choosing, always sacrificing, always one emergency away from disaster. Brooks wanted to fix everything immediately, write a check and solve all her problems. But he was learning that wasn't what Kayla needed. She needed respect, partnership, to be seen as an equal despite their vastly different financial situations. So he was careful, strategic. When Piper mentioned needing new shoes, Brooks happened to have a gift card to the shoe store he couldn't use. When Kayla's apartment had a plumbing issue, Brooks knew a guy who owed him a favor. Small helps that didn't feel like charity. Tuesday mornings, Brooks started picking up Piper for school. Kayla worked early shifts at the clinic, and her neighbor who usually watched Piper had back surgery. Brooks offered to help, and after initial resistance, Kayla agreed. Those morning drives became precious to Brooks. Piper would chatter about her dreams from the night before, her plans for recess, her theories about why the sky was blue. Brooks learned more about life from a 6-year-old than he had from decades of business experience. One morning, as he dropped Piper off, she turned to him before getting out of the car. "Mr. Hendrick, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart. Are you lonely?" The question caught him off guard. Was he lonely? A month ago, the answer would have been devastatingly yes. But now, "I was very lonely," Brooks said honestly. "But I'm not anymore. You and your mom have helped with that." "Good," Piper said, satisfied. "Because you're really nice, and nice people shouldn't be lonely." She paused. "Do you think you'll marry my mommy?" Brooks laughed gently. "Your mom and I are friends, Piper. But do you want to be more than friends?" How did a 6-year-old have such insight? Brooks considered his answer carefully. "I care about your mother very much," he said. "And I care about you very much. Is that okay with you?" "It's very okay," Piper said. "I think you should marry her and be my daddy. Then we could be a family." Brooks felt his throat tighten. "That's a beautiful thought, Piper. Will you think about it?" "I will. I promise." Piper hugged him and ran off to join her friends. Brooks sat in his car for a long moment, processing. Was he falling in love with Kayla? The answer, he realized, was yes. Completely, terrifyingly yes. Saturday afternoons became library and park time. Brooks would pick them up, and they'd spend hours browsing books, playing on the playground, feeding ducks, just being together. Kayla was brilliant in ways Brooks hadn't expected. She saw patterns he missed, understood human nature intuitively. When he talked about work problems, she offered insights that were more valuable than anything his high-paid consultants provided. One Saturday, as Piper played with other children at the park, Brooks and Kayla talked about his company. "The problem is," Brooks said, "I built Hendrick Innovations with a very specific culture. Aggressive, competitive, results at any cost. And that culture has created a workforce that's productive but miserable. Can you change it?" Kayla asked. "I can try. I'm the CEO. I have the power to implement new policies. But changing culture is harder than changing rules. What do your employees actually need?" Kayla thought about this. Flexibility. Life doesn't happen on a 9-to-5 schedule. Childcare support, because daycare costs are insane. Mental health resources because everyone's struggling. Time off that they can actually take without being punished for it. Living wages so they're not working full-time and still in poverty. Brooks pulled out his phone and started making notes. "Keep going." They spent the next hour brainstorming. Kayla spoke from experience, from her own struggles and those of people she knew. Brooks translated her insights into actionable policies. The following Monday, Brooks called an emergency board meeting. "I'm restructuring the company," he announced. "We're implementing comprehensive parental leave, 6 months paid for any parent, biological or adoptive, on-site childcare, mental health resources, flexible schedules and remote work options. And we're raising the minimum wage for every employee to a living wage for this city." His CFO, Richard Chen, nearly choked on his coffee. "Brooks, that will cost tens of millions annually. The shareholders will never approve this." "I'm the majority shareholder," Brooks said calmly, "and I approve it. Anyone who objects can sell their shares. I'll buy them out." "But the profit margins," Richard protested, "will be fine. We'll be slightly less profitable on paper, but we'll have lower turnover, higher productivity, and a workforce that's actually engaged. That's worth more than short-term profit maximization." The board erupted in arguments, but Brooks remained firm. He'd found his purpose. His company was going to mean something beyond making rich people richer. Over the next month, Brooks transformed Hendrick Innovations. He hired a new HR director focused on employee well-being, created an emergency fund for employees facing financial crises, implemented all the changes he and Kayla had discussed. The response was overwhelming. Employee satisfaction scores skyrocketed. Productivity increased. Turnover dropped dramatically. Several competitors' employees started applying to work at Hendrick Innovations, attracted by the new culture. Business magazines that had once celebrated Brooks's ruthlessness now ran stories about his transformation. From cutthroat to compassionate, how Brooks Hendrick reinvented corporate culture. But Brooks didn't care about the headlines. He cared about the emails he received from employees. Single mothers thanking him for childcare support that changed their lives. Fathers grateful they could actually be present for their children. People who could finally afford therapy, who could take time off when sick, who felt valued as humans instead of resources. This, Brooks realized, was what mattered. This was success that meant something. One evening, Brooks showed up at Kayla's apartment with takeout. Chinese food from a place she'd mentioned loving but rarely being able to afford. "What's this?" she asked, surprised. "Dinner," Brooks said, "and a thank you. Your insights transformed my company. I wanted to celebrate with you." Kayla let him in. Piper was already in pajamas, excited about the food. They ate at Kayla's small kitchen table. The apartment was tiny, maybe 400 square feet total. The furniture was worn. The walls needed paint, but it was filled with love. Pictures of Piper covered the refrigerator. Books overflowed from shelves. A cozy blanket draped over the couch. "This feels more like home than my penthouse ever has," Brooks said honestly. Kayla looked around. "It's not much. It's everything," Brooks corrected. "It's real. It's lived in. It's loved." After dinner, Piper wanted to show Brooks her room. It was barely big enough for a twin bed and a small dresser, but she decorated it with drawings and a shelf of books and a collection of stuffed animals arranged carefully. "This is where I sleep," she announced. "And that's Mr. Elephant. He sleeps with me every night. And those are my favorite books. And I made that drawing of Mommy and me and my daddy who's in heaven." Brooks looked at the drawing. Stick figures holding hands. A firefighter with a halo. A little girl in the middle. Kayla standing beside them, smiling. "It's beautiful, Piper," Brooks said softly. "You could be in it too," Piper said. "If you want. I could draw you. I'd like that very much." After Piper was in bed, Brooks and Kayla sat on the couch with coffee. Well, Kayla had coffee. Brooks had learned her coffee was truly terrible, so he'd brought tea for himself. "Thank you for everything you're doing," Kayla said. "The changes at your company, I've been reading about them. You're actually changing lives." "We're changing lives," Brooks corrected. "None of this would have happened without you. I just talked. You did the work. You gave me purpose, Kayla. You and Piper pulled me out of the darkest place I've ever been. You showed me what actually matters. That's worth more than any business success." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Kayla spoke quietly. "Can I tell you something? Anything. I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of this. Of you. Of what I'm starting to feel." She looked at him. "I haven't let myself have feelings for anyone since Tyler died. It felt like a betrayal, like I was dishonoring his memory. But you," she paused, "you make me want to risk it, to try again. And that terrifies me." Brooks set down his tea and took her hand. "I'm scared too. My marriage failed because I chose the wrong person for the wrong reasons. I'm terrified of making the same mistake. But Kayla, what I feel for you is nothing like what I felt for Andrea. This is real. You see me. The actual me, not the wealthy CEO or the successful businessman. Just me. And I see you. Your strength, your kindness, your incredible parenting, your brilliant mind. I see you, and I'm in awe." Kayla's eyes filled with tears. "Brooks, I'm not asking you to make any decisions right now," Brooks continued. "I just needed you to know. You're not alone in feeling this. And whatever happens, however fast or slow you need to go, I'm here." Kayla leaned her head on his shoulder. "Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for being worth waiting for." They sat like that for a long time, just being together in the quiet. But not everything was peaceful. The following Saturday, Brooks took Kayla and Piper to the Riverside Café for their usual breakfast. They were laughing about something Piper had said when the door opened and Brooks's past walked in. Andrea, looking perfect in a cream designer outfit, and beside her, Derek, wearing an expensive suit and a smug expression. Brooks felt Kayla tense beside him. She'd seen the change in his face. "What's wrong?" she asked quietly. My ex-wife just walked in. With Derek. Kayla followed his gaze. Oh. Andrea spotted Brooks almost immediately. Her eyes widened, then narrowed as she took in Kayla and Piper. She said something to Derek, and they both approached the table. Brooks stood instinctively, positioning himself slightly in front of Kayla and Piper. "Brooks," Andrea said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Fancy seeing you here. This is quite a downgrade from your usual spots." "Andrea," Brooks replied evenly. "Derek." Derek smirked. "Still bitter about the business goal? You should thank me. That company was stagnant under your leadership. We're taking it places you never imagined." "You mean running it into the ground with your aggressive tactics?" Brooks replied calmly. "I've seen the reports. Employee satisfaction down 30%. 2 major client losses. But sure, tell yourself you're doing great." Andrea's attention fixed on Kayla, who'd stood up beside Brooks. "And who is this?" "Let me guess. Another gold digger who thinks she's hit the jackpot." Brooks felt anger surge, but before he could respond, Kayla spoke. "I'm Kayla, Brooks's friend." She extended her hand, which Andrea ignored. "And you must be Andrea. I've heard about you." "I'm sure he's told you all about me," Andrea said, her smile sharp. "He mentioned you left him for his business partner," Kayla said calmly. "That must have been a difficult choice, choosing between 2 wealthy men." Andrea's smile tightened. "At least I chose someone with ambition, someone who's still relevant. Brooks has been a ghost in the business world for months. Everyone's talking about his downfall." "My downfall?" Brooks laughed. "Andrea, I restructured my company to focus on sustainable growth and employee satisfaction. We're more profitable than ever, just not in ways you'd understand. Because you only see numbers, not people." "Oh, please," Derek interjected. "You've gone soft, Cole. All these new policies, the benefits, the flexibility. You're running a charity, not a business." "I'm running a company where people matter," Brooks corrected. "Where employees are valued as humans. Where success is measured in more than quarterly reports." "Novel concept, I know." Andrea looked at Kayla with barely disguised contempt. "So what do you do, Kayla? Let me guess. Aspiring actress? Model? Waiting for Brooks to fund your dreams?" Kayla met her gaze steadily. "I'm a veterinary technician. I'm also going to school to become a nurse. And I have a daughter, none of which is any of your business, but since you asked." "A single mother," Andrea said, as if that explained everything. "How convenient for you, finding a billionaire to solve all your problems." Brooks stepped forward, his voice hard. "That's enough. You don't get to speak to her that way." "Oh, Brooks," Andrea's voice softened artificially. "Don't be angry. I'm just looking out for you. This woman is clearly using you. Wake up before she takes everything." "The only people who ever use me are standing right in front of me," Brooks said coldly. "Kayla has given me more in 3 months than you gave me in 15 years. She sees me, not my bank account. She cares about me, not what I can do for her." "How touching," Derek said sarcastically. Brooks' Cole, brought low by domestic bliss. Pathetic. Piper, who'd been quietly observing from behind Kayla, suddenly spoke up. "Why are you being so mean?" Everyone turned to look at her. This small child, staring up at Andrea and Derek with confusion and concern. "Excuse me," Andrea said. "You're saying mean things," Piper continued. "That's not nice. My mommy taught me that if you can't say something nice, you shouldn't say anything at all." Kayla touched Piper's shoulder gently. "Baby, these are just some people Mr. Brooks used to know." But Kayla spoke directly to Andrea and Derek. "Some people never learn how to be kind. It's sad, really. I feel sorry for them." Andrea's face flushed red. "You're delusional if you think this will last. Brooks will get bored of playing house. Men like him always do." "Men like me?" Brooks asked. "You mean men who were hollow inside until they found something real? Men who confused success with happiness? Men who finally learned what matters?" "You're right, Andrea. I've changed, and I'm grateful for it every single day." Just then, Mrs. Chen, the cafe owner, approached. "Is everything all right here?" "These people were just leaving," Brooks said firmly. "We're not done," Derek started. "Yes, we are," Brooks interrupted. "Goodbye, Andrea. Goodbye, Derek. I wish you both the best. But I'm done looking backward." He sat back down, turning his attention to Kayla and Piper. effectively dismissing his ex-wife and former friend. Andrea called after them as they walked away. "You'll regret this, Brooks. Mark my words." Brooks didn't even turn around. After they left, Piper climbed into Brooks's lap. "Those people were not very nice," she observed. "No, they weren't," Brooks agreed. "But they're gone now." Kayla reached across the table and took his hand. "Are you okay?" "I'm better than okay," Brooks said honestly. "Seeing them just confirmed what I already knew. Being here with you and Piper is worth more than anything I left behind." In the car later, Piper asked why that lady was so mean. "Sometimes people are hurting inside," Brooks explained, "and they try to make other people hurt too. It's not about you or your mom. It's about them." "That's sad," Piper said. "I hope they feel better someday." Brooks smiled at her wisdom. "Me too, sweetheart." That evening, after they'd gotten ice cream to wash away the bad taste of the confrontation, Brooks dropped them off at their apartment. As Kayla walked him to the door, she stopped him with a hand on his arm. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For defending us, for standing up to them, for choosing us over your past." "There was no choice," Brooks said. "You and Piper are my present, my future. They're just ghosts of a life I don't want anymore." Kayla looked up at him, and Brooks saw something shift in her expression. Some wall coming down, some decision being made. "Brooks, she started. From inside the apartment, Piper called out, "Mommy, I can't find my library book." Kayla smiled ruefully. "Duty calls, but Brooks, we should talk. Soon. I'd like that." He drove home thinking about her words. Her expression, the way she'd looked at him like she was seeing something new. Or maybe like she was finally admitting something she'd been seeing all along. The next week, Kayla texted him, "Can you come over Thursday evening? After Piper's in bed? I want to talk." Brooks spent the next 3 days, anxious and hopeful and terrified. What did she want to talk about? Was she going to set boundaries? Tell him she needed space? Or was this something else? Thursday evening, he arrived with wine. Kayla answered the door in jeans and a soft sweater, her hair down in waves. Piper ran to hug him. "Mr. Hendrick, I made you a picture." She handed him a drawing. It showed 4 stick figures now. Kayla, Piper, a man labeled Tyler in heaven with angel wings, and another man labeled Brooks. They were all holding hands, connected even across the boundary between earth and heaven. "This is beautiful, Piper," Brooks said, his voice thick. "I wanted Daddy and you both in it," Piper explained. "Because Daddy will always be my daddy, but you can be my daddy too. If you want." Brooks knelt down. "I would be honored to be your daddy, Piper. If that's okay with your mom." "It's okay with me," Piper said confidently. "Mommy cries less when you're around. That means she's happy." After Piper was in bed, Brooks and Kayla sat on the couch. She poured wine for both of them. "I've been thinking a lot," she started. "About Tyler, about you, about what it means to move forward." "Kayla, you don't have to," Brooks began. "Let me finish," she said gently. "When Tyler died, I thought my life was over. I was so angry at him for being a hero, for choosing strangers over us. It took me a long time to understand that he didn't choose them over us. He couldn't not save them. It was who he was." Brooks listened, giving her space. "And I held on to that anger and that grief like a shield," Kayla continued. "Because if I was grieving, I didn't have to risk being hurt again. I could just survive, just get through each day. But then you walked into our lives, or rather, Piper walked into yours." She smiled at the memory. "And you made me realize something," Kayla said. "Tyler wouldn't want me to just survive. He'd want me to live, to love again, to let someone else in." She turned to face Brooks fully. "You've been so patient, so kind. You've respected my pace, my boundaries, my grief. You've become Piper's friend. You've helped us in ways big and small. You've shown me what a real partnership looks like. Brooks, I'm ready. I'm ready to stop being afraid. I'm ready to admit what I've known for a while now." She took his hand. "I have feelings for you. Real, deep, terrifying feelings. And I want to see where this goes. If you're still interested." Brooks felt like his heart might burst. "Still interested? Kayla, I've been falling in love with you since the moment I met you. Since you let your daughter climb into a stranger's lap because she saw someone in pain. Since you showed me what strength and grace look like. Since you helped me find purpose again." He cupped her face gently. I love you. I love Piper. I love the life we're building together. And I want all of it, all of you, for as long as you'll have me." Kayla's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too, Brooks." And then they kissed, soft and sweet at first, then deeper. Years of loneliness melting away, walls crumbling, hearts opening, two broken people finding wholeness in each other. When they pulled apart, both were crying and laughing simultaneously. From her bedroom, Piper's voice called out, "Are you guys kissing?" "Finally?" They both laughed. Kayla called back, "Go to sleep, nosy child." "But you are kissing, right?" Piper persisted. "Because you should be. You love each other." "Yes, we're kissing," Brooks called back. "Is that okay with you?" "Very okay," Piper said, satisfaction clear in her voice. "Good night. I love you both." "We love you too, baby," Kayla said. Brooks pulled Kayla close again. "Your daughter is wise beyond her years." "She gets that from her father," Kayla said. "Both of them." Over the next several months, Brooks and Kayla built something beautiful. They officially started dating, though it felt like they'd been together much longer. She integrated into his life, he into hers, puzzle pieces fitting together perfectly. Brooks met Kayla's sister Rachel, who was protective at first but warmed up when she saw how genuine Brooks's feelings were. How he treated Kayla and Piper like they were precious, which they were. Brooks started spending more time at their apartment than his penthouse. It felt more like home despite, or maybe because of, its modest size. He loved the domesticity of it, helping Piper with homework, cooking dinner with Kayla, movie nights on the couch, the simple, ordinary moments that made life rich. One Saturday morning, as they ate pancakes at the Riverside Café, their tradition now solidified, Brooks made a decision. "I've been thinking," he said. "Your apartment is pretty small for 3 people. Kayla looked up. "3 people? Well, I'm there most nights anyway. And I was thinking, maybe we should find a place together. Something bigger. A house maybe. With a yard for Piper." Kayla set down her fork. "Brooks, I can't afford half of anything you'd want to live in." "I'm not asking you to," Brooks said. "I'm asking us to find a home together. I'll buy it. You can contribute what you're paying in rent now if it makes you feel better. But Kayla, I want us to be a family. Really, officially." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I love you. I love Piper. I want to wake up with you every morning. I want to be there for homework and dinner and bedtime stories. I want to build a life together." From across the table, Piper stage whispered, "Say yes, Mommy." Kayla laughed, wiping tears from her eyes. "Okay, yes, let's find a home together." They spent the next month house hunting. Brooks learned what Kayla valued. Good schools, safe neighborhoods, community, not size or luxury, but spaces where Piper could thrive. They found it in a neighborhood called Riverside Hills, a beautiful 4-bedroom house with a big backyard, room for Piper, a home office for Brooks, a guest room, and a master suite for him and Kayla. The day they got the keys, Piper ran through the house claiming her room, the one with windows overlooking the garden. "Can I paint it purple?" she asked. "You can paint it any color you want," Brooks told her. They moved in together on a sunny Saturday. Brooks hired movers despite Kayla's protests, and Rachel came to help. By evening, they were mostly settled. Brooks found Kayla in what would be their bedroom, unpacking boxes. "How are you feeling?" he asked. She turned to him, smiling. "Happy. Really, truly happy. Tyler would be glad I found you. That Piper has you." Brooks pulled her close. "I'm going to spend every day earning that trust. You already have." That night, after Piper was asleep in her new purple room, Brooks and Kayla sat on their new couch in their new living room. "Thank you," Kayla said. "For what?" "For being patient. For loving us. For choosing us." "Thank you for giving me a second chance at life," Brooks replied. "At happiness. At meaning." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the moonlight through the windows, grateful for the unexpected journey that brought them here. 6 months after moving in together, Brooks knew with absolute certainty what he wanted to do next. He started planning the proposal carefully. He wanted it to be meaningful, not ostentatious, something that honored their story and included Piper. He enlisted Piper as his co-conspirator one Saturday morning while Kayla was at school. "I want to ask your mom to marry me," Brooks said, "but I need your permission first. Would that be okay with you?" Piper squealed so loudly Brooks had to cover his ears. Really truly? Really truly, Brooks confirmed. So, is that a yes? Yes, yes, yes. Piper jumped up and down. Can I help? I was hoping you would. They planned together. Piper wanted to make a sign. Brooks wanted to propose at the Riverside Café, where it all started. They decided on a Sunday morning, their traditional breakfast time. The week leading up felt like the longest of Brooks's life. He bought a ring, simple but beautiful. A gold band with a single diamond, something Kayla would actually wear. Saturday night, he barely slept. Sunday morning, he arrived at the cafe early. Mrs. Chen was expecting him and had reserved their usual table. Brooks placed flowers there, red roses for Kayla, wildflowers for Piper, a small card that said reserved for the Hendrick family, hopeful and presumptuous. Piper arrived with Rachel at 8:45, holding her sign. She decorated it with markers, stickers, and enough glitter to blind someone. Will you marry my dad? It read, Please say yes. Brooks knelt down. Your sign is perfect, Piper. I know, she said proudly. Then, nervously, do you think she'll say yes? I hope so, Brooks admitted. But even if she needs time to think about it, that's okay. She'll say yes, Piper said confidently. She told Aunt Rachel you're her soulmate. I heard her. Brooks's heart soared. She said that? Piper nodded seriously. At 9 o'clock exactly, Kayla walked through the door. She wore a soft blue dress that matched her eyes. Her hair was down in waves. She looked beautiful and surprised when she saw the flowers. Brooks, what's all this? Come sit, he said, his heart pounding. Kayla sat, looking between Brooks and Piper with growing curiosity. What's going on? Brooks took a deep breath. 9 months ago, I sat at this table on my birthday, completely alone. I'd lost everything I thought mattered. My marriage, my best friend, my sense of purpose. I was seriously questioning whether anything in my life was worth continuing. Kayla reached for his hand. And then a 6-year-old girl walked up, Brooks continued, and asked if I was okay. Such a simple question, but it changed everything. Because you, Piper, reminded me that kindness exists, that people can care about strangers, that there was still good in the world. Piper beamed. Brooks turned to Kayla. And you could have pulled your daughter away and left, but you stayed. You shared my birthday cake. You let me into your lives. You showed me what real love looks like, what partnership means, what family feels like. Tears were already forming in Kayla's eyes. These past 9 months have been the happiest of my life, Brooks said, not because of anything I've achieved, but because of who I've shared them with. You've given me purpose, Kayla. You've given me family. You've given me love that's real and deep and transformative. He got down on one knee. The cafe went quiet. Kayla gasped, her hand covering her mouth. Kayla Preston, I love you more than I knew I could love anyone. I love your strength, your kindness, your grace. I love how you've raised Piper to be extraordinary. I love how you make me want to be extraordinary too. He pulled out the ring box and opened it. Will you marry me? Will you let me be your husband and Piper's father? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of your love? Before Kayla could answer, Piper jumped up with her sign. Will you marry my dad? She added. Please say yes. Kayla laughed through her tears, looking between Brooks and Piper. Yes, she said, her voice breaking with emotion. Yes, of course yes. 1,000 times yes. Brooks slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into his arms. They kissed while the entire cafe erupted in applause. Mrs. Chen had let in their regular Sunday crowd, all of whom had watched their relationship develop over months. Piper wedged herself between them, hugging them both. We're going to be a real family. We already are, Brooks said, holding both his girls close. This just makes it official. Mrs. Chen brought out a cake she'd prepared, decorated with congratulations. People came over to offer well wishes and share their own engagement stories. Later at home, the three of them sat together on the couch, looking at the ring on Kayla's finger. It's beautiful, she said. You're beautiful, Brooks replied. When are you getting married? Piper asked. Can I be in the wedding? Can I wear a fancy dress? You can absolutely be in the wedding, Kayla assured her. You'll be our maid of honor. What's that? The most important person besides the bride and groom, Brooks explained. The person who stands with us and supports us. I can do that. Piper said solemnly. I'm very supportive. They spent the rest of the day planning and dreaming and laughing. Brooks couldn't remember ever being this happy. The wedding was 3 months later. Small and intimate, just 50 guests. Close friends, family, a few colleagues. They held the ceremony in the botanical gardens, surrounded by roses and sunshine. Piper wore a purple dress and carried a basket of flower petals. She took her role very seriously, standing beside them during the entire ceremony. Brooks and Kayla had written their own vows. Kayla went first. Brooks, 9 months ago, I thought my life was set. I was content with just surviving, just getting by. And then you walked into our lives and showed me that I deserved more than just surviving. You showed me partnership, love, support. You showed Piper what a father should be. You gave us hope. I promise to love you, support you, and stand by you for the rest of our lives. You're my best friend, my partner, and my love. Brooks's turn. Kayla, when I met you, I was the loneliest man alive. I had everything money could buy and nothing that mattered. You and Piper saved my life in the most literal sense. You showed me what love looks like, what family means, what actually matters. I promise to honor you, cherish you, and support your dreams. I promise to be the best father I can be to Piper. I promise to choose us every day for the rest of my life. You are my home. There wasn't a dry eye in the audience. The officiant pronounced them husband and wife. They kissed while everyone applauded. Piper hugged them both, and the photographer captured the moment. A family, complete and whole. The reception was joyful. Good food, better company, lots of laughter. Brooks and Kayla's first dance was to a song Piper had helped pick, something upbeat and happy. Piper gave a toast with Rachel's help. I'm glad my mommy married Mr. Brooks. He's really nice, and he gives good hugs, and he helps with my homework, even when it's hard. Now we're a family forever. Late in the evening, Brooks pulled Kayla outside to the garden. The lights were soft, the air sweet with flowers. How are you feeling, Mrs. Hendrick? He asked. Perfect, Kayla said. Absolutely perfect. Brooks wrapped his arms around her. This is the best day of my life. Mine too. They swayed gently to music drifting from the reception. Two people who'd found each other in the most unexpected way. Two people who'd built something real and lasting. I love you, Brooks said. I love you too, Kayla replied. 2 years after that day in the cafe, Brooks sat in the Riverside Cafe again. But this time, he wasn't alone and crying. He was here with purpose. The cafe had become a weekly gathering place for a group he'd started called Second Chances. A support system for people going through divorce, job loss, major life transitions, anyone who needed community and hope during dark times. Kayla, 8 months pregnant with their first child together, sat in a nearby booth. She'd graduated from nursing school 6 months earlier and was working part-time at the hospital before her maternity leave. Piper, now 8 years old, did homework at another table, occasionally looking up to wave at Brooks. Today, a new member sat in the corner booth where Brooks had once cried over his divorce papers. The man was in his 50s, well-dressed but disheveled, staring at nothing with hollow eyes that Brooks recognized. Brooks approached with 2 cups of coffee. Mind if I sit? The man looked up, surprised. Sure. I'm Brooks. I run this group. But more importantly, about 2 years ago, I was sitting in this exact spot, crying my eyes out after my divorce. Lost, broken, wondering if anything mattered anymore. The man's expression shifted. Recognition, relief at being understood. What changed? He asked quietly. Brooks smiled. A 6-year-old girl walked up and asked if I was okay. Then she climbed into my lap and told me broken hearts could heal. She was right. The man looked skeptical. That's simple and that complicated, Brooks acknowledged. Healing isn't linear, but it starts with accepting help, with letting people see your pain, with believing better days are possible. The door chimed. Piper looked up from her homework and waved enthusiastically at someone arriving. Other group members started filing in. A woman who'd lost her job. A man whose wife had passed away. A younger person navigating family estrangement. All of them survivors. All of them healing. The man across from Brooks watched this. Your family? He asked, gesturing to Kayla and Piper. Yeah, Brooks said, his heart full. My whole world. You seem happy. I am. Genuinely, deeply happy. And 2 years ago, I never thought I'd say that. Brooks leaned forward. Here's what I want you to know. Wherever you are right now, however dark it feels, it's not the end of your story. It's just a painful chapter. There are better chapters ahead if you're brave enough to keep turning pages. The man's eyes filled with tears. How do you know? Because I've lived it. Because every person in this group has lived it. Because healing is possible, and you don't have to do it alone. The meeting began. Stories shared in the sacred space of communal understanding. Brooks facilitated with empathy, earned through his own journey. Afterward, he joined his family. Piper immediately climbed into his lap. Good meeting, Dad? Really good. I think we helped some people today. Kayla rested her hand on her pregnant belly. You help people every day. It's your superpower. I learned from the best, Brooks replied, kissing her hand. Piper looked up at him. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything, sweetheart. When you were sad that day, when I first met you, did you ever think we'd be a family? Brooks considered this. Honestly, no. I couldn't see past my pain to imagine anything good again. But then I helped you, Piper said, not bragging, just stating fact. You absolutely did. You and your mom saved my life. Good, Piper said, satisfied. That's what I'm going to write about for my school essay. How helping people is the most important thing you can do. Because you never know, maybe the sad person in the cafe might become your dad someday. Brooks and Kayla both laughed, eyes bright with happy tears. As they left the cafe hand in hand, Brooks took one last look at the corner booth where his life had changed, where despair had transformed into hope, where a child's simple question, "Are you okay?" had opened the door to everything that mattered. He sent up a silent thank you to the universe, to fate, to whatever force had put Piper in that cafe on that particular morning. Then he focused on what was ahead. Dinner with his family, bedtime stories for Piper, quiet moments with Kayla planning for the baby's arrival. A life rich beyond measure, not because of money, but because of love. And that, Brooks had learned, was the only wealth that truly mattered. So here's what I want you to remember, and I need you to really hear this. You never know when a simple act of kindness, asking, "Are you okay?" offering a hand, showing genuine care, might save someone's life. We all have the power to be someone's Piper, to see the hurting and reach out, to offer hope when someone's forgotten it exists. That's not just kindness. That's love in action. And it's the most valuable thing any of us can give. Brooks Hendrick walked into that cafe a broken billionaire who had everything and nothing. He walked out with purpose, with family, with love, with meaning. All because a 6-year-old girl had the courage to approach a crying stranger. All because someone asked if he was okay. All because broken hearts really can heal if we let people help. Think about the people in your life right now. The ones who look fine on the surface but might be drowning underneath. Your coworker who's always busy. Your neighbor who keeps to themselves. The person at the grocery store who looks tired. The stranger at the cafe sitting alone. What if you're supposed to be their Piper? What if your simple question, your moment of genuine care, could change their entire life? I'm challenging you today. This week, ask someone if they're okay. Really ask. Look them in the eyes. Show genuine concern. You might feel awkward. They might brush you off. But you also might be the miracle they desperately need. Because we're all connected in ways we can't see. We're all struggling with something. We're all one bad day away from being the person crying in the cafe. And we're all one act of kindness away from being saved. If this story moved you, if it reminded you what really matters, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, smash that like button. Let the algorithm know this message needs to spread. Second, share this video with someone who needs hope today. Your friend going through a divorce. Your family member struggling with loss. The person you know who's lonely. Send it to them with a message that says, "I'm here for you." Third, tell me in the comments about a time someone's kindness changed your life, or a time your kindness changed someone else's. Let's create a chain of hope together. Let's remind each other that good people still exist, that miracles still happen, that broken hearts really do heal. And subscribe to Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips for more stories that will restore your faith in humanity. Because we all need reminding that in a world that often feels dark, there are still lights everywhere. Sometimes they come in the form of a 6-year-old girl with copper hair and a stuffed elephant asking the simplest, most powerful question in the world. Are you okay? And sometimes they come in the form of a stranger who's brave enough to answer honestly, no, but I will be. Until next time, remember this. Broken hearts can heal. Second chances are real. Love, real transformative love, is always worth the risk. And you have the power to be someone's miracle today. All you have to do is notice. All you have to do is care. All you have to do is ask. Go be someone's Piper. The world needs more of you. This is Dr. Phillips reminding you that love and hope are always worth fighting for. I'll see you in the next story.